It's the end of October 2024. Andy Heslop and I have travelled up to Scapa Flow to do a bit of diving on Valhalla. First dive was the Karlsruhe, but I didn't bother taking my camera in on that. More of a check dive. The next dive is the salvage barge, which you could also consider to be a checkout dive. First couple of dives we were with Chris Irvin, a local Orcadian who's really into his wreck diving. This is the twin 37mm ACAC gun, salvaged from the F2 before the salvage barge sank. Doesn't take long to look around the salvage barge, so we headed off to the F2. This is its bow. It's begun to collapse. Now this is a couple of rebreather divers looking at the 105mm gun, where they found a small torch that had become lodged. Lots of juvenile fish on the wreck and the occasional saithe or pollock. And now we're going straight into our next dive, which is the Brummer, a light cruiser. Here is its armoured conning tower, and this is the famous brass bridge, made of brass to ensure that the compass was accurate. The bridge is on its side because the ship is on its side. Probably difficult to visualize this, but this is a searchlight, and those petals that you see are the iris, which opens and closes. And now we are making our way towards, I think, a rear 5.9 inch gun, or 150mm if you're metric. This is the Dresden light cruiser. We're at the stern, where we can see its two 5.9 inch guns. Used to be able to swim through the officers' quarters beneath the super firing gun, but it's all collapsed a bit now. Just swimming over the blasted area because these ships were salvaged. We are all heading off to the bow and the bridge area, which is a little bit more interesting. Here we've got, I think it's the starboard amidships 5.9 inch gun. And there's Andy Heslop letting me know that we've reached the conning tower. Just a general view showing that there's quite decent viz on the wrecks in October. Andy Heslop calling me over so that we can have a look inside the conning tower. The glass slits are still in place, but you can still see the interior. Can't really make out what these things are, but the interior of the conning tower is inaccessible, so this is what came from Germany all those years ago. I remember these light cruisers as having a lot more penetrations available. There's been a lot of collapse since I was last here, and compared to my first visit 30 odd years ago, they're completely different ships. Just having a look at the crest on Dresden's bows, and these are the sharp bows of the ship. We've moved on from the light cruisers to a König class battleship called the Kronprinz Wilhelm. The standout feature of this dive is that if you descend to the seabed, you can get underneath the ship, where you can see the main 12-inch armament. This is Andy Heslop examining one of the rifled barrels. I didn't go very far because last time I followed the barrels I got stuck and it took some while to rescue myself. And we can see the barrel going into the turret there and a diver swimming underneath. just a look inside one of the various inviting doorways, but it's a bit of a cat's cradle of debris inside the ship. Our next dive is the Margraf, another Koenig class battleship. It's also the deepest dive that we did at about 45 meters. These are the twin rudders of the battleship. They are basically like barn doors. They're enormous. But then it's a big ship. You can just see Andy emerging from the other side of that rudder, and we're heading to the stern, where we hope to see some intact portholes, but on this occasion we had no joy. We did see this armoured belt. It's only about 6 inches. The secondary armament of the Margraf was 5.9 inch guns, encasements, and here is one, looking very impressive. And this is a view of a casement gun in better days. Rather than bag off on this dive, we followed an anchor chain to the top of the wreck, where it was tied in to a shot line that no one else was using. On the way back to Stromness, we came across a juvenile basking shark, only about 5 foot long. We gently followed it at a distance.
Oh, it's got a tail.
And then it just disappeared. I'm filming this from the car because it's so windy that I cannot physically get out of the car. This was an artifact that had been reported on the seabed, so Chris Irvin went down and had a look, took some photos. If you know what this sign is, please let us know in the comments. Another intact conning tower that's fallen to the seabed. You can see it's twin layered. I believe this is known as an armoured ventilator. Now we're heading to the bows. I've come across an anchor chain, and if you look above me, there is a capstan. And here we are at the bows, another very sharp cruiser bow. And after having a look, we're going to return to the midsections and try and make our way to the rear, or stern. A 5.9 inch gun. Couldn't resist putting my camera in, but there's nothing lurking. This is a little odd. It's obviously a torpedo tube. The Cullen had torpedoes, but they were underneath the forward main armament. This is our final dive of the week. It's a Koenig class battleship again, and it's the Koenig itself. She's extremely broken up. It was not, in my view, a particularly good dive. This is one of the rear rudders, quite impressive, and this is a bit of secondary armour plate, I would call it. It's only about 6 inches thick. It could go up to 13 inches on these battleships. And for those of you who like squidgy things, here are some Devonshire cup corals growing on the steel underside of the boat. After every dive, we tended to deploy our delayed SMBs, and we became pretty competent at it by the end of the week. This was my 6th time at Scapa Flow. The ships are deteriorating badly. I think I'm going to have to find somewhere else to go.